Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema, where I had Kyle catch up on 2002's Dog Soldiers, directed by Neil Marshall. Um, so this guy, like right off the bat, I want to talk about Neil Marshall because I feel that this is a director that you're probably very familiar with, you just didn't know it. Um, I know him because I saw this movie when it premiered in the U.S. via the Sci-Fi Channel. Um, I was what 13, 14 around the time. If I recall, it was cut for television, so it was edited a bit. I saw it probably at like 3 in the morning, so I barely remembered it at the time when I first saw it. But that was 2002. Flash forward 3 years later, he made a film called The Descent,
Very good movie.
which yeah, I was about to say I happen to really like that.
I really like that movie.
I was fortunate to catch it in the theater, and I got pretty wrapped up in it. I thought it was a very intense experience. I enjoyed that movie. I can't speak to the quality of the sequel, but as far as I know, he only produced that. Following that, he made a movie called Doomsday in 2008 that I did not see, but it looks like a Prodigy concert in Scotland that gets out of hand or something.
I think it looks like Mad Max meets Resident Evil. That's the two that I could see.
2008. I mean, we were very much in the thick of the Resident Evil film franchise, kind of carving its niche into Hollywood.
It has Rona Mitra, who might be the hottest woman to ever live at that time.
Oh, she's gorgeous. Hollow Man. That was quite important to my formative years.
Yeah, in all the wrong ways.
But then following Doomsday, he kind of dipped out of theaters. He started working in television on a lot of shows that you're probably familiar with, even if you haven't seen them. Game of Thrones being the most noteworthy.
Mm-hmm. I am
Black
familiar
Sails,
with that.
Constantine, Hannibal, Westworld, Lost in Space on Netflix. He's been putting in work just off of the silver screen. But now his current project is the new Hellboy movie, starring what was it, David Harbour, I think.
David Harbour, yeah. Yeah.
So this is a guy who, I don't know how you felt about this movie, but he seems to dabble in works that work for you, and by extension work for me.
I did not really like this movie that much. I liked parts of it, but on the whole, I feel like it was kind of long-winded. There's a lot of dialogue. For this type of movie, there was far too much dialogue, and I wanted blood and guts, which is what I was kind of expecting.
Yeah, it has a weird rhythm to it, and I think a big reason for that is budgetary limitations. They do some really clever editing here, where they do their best to hide the quality of their effects work. And it shows, especially in the earlier portions of the film. They go to great lengths to not show you the monsters in this film.
Yeah.
Towards the end, they kind of throw that out the window, and fortunately, the makeup effects are actually not that bad.
No, they're pretty good.
They were wise to hide them as best they could, but at the same time, the payoff is not disappointing. I've seen far worse.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's really not bad. He took too long to introduce the actual monsters, and I think that might be one of my big problems with a movie like this. Fake blood, how much does fake blood cost? I'm going to go ahead and say that they used real animal intestines for this, probably.
More than likely.
Cool, but you could have gotten more fake blood. You could have done some more gore. Especially
when like the later portions of the film are like the classic siege scenario, where it's like, be it a zombie movie or what have you, it's kind of a classic horror trope to have a bunch of people boarded up in a house and some awful things trying to get at them. We've seen that so many times before, and part of the problem with working with tropes is that there's always like that one outstanding example that kind of shits on everything else that's out there. Like for me, like theatrical gunfights where everything's like kind of over the top and not meant to be taken seriously. Like you have John Wick movies and Hard Boiled, and everything else is just kind of secondary to that.
Okay.
And then like Dead Alive, in terms of graphic bloodletting, and over the top makeup effects delivered like one after the other, there's very few spectacles of gore and mayhem that can compete with that.
True.
So you're forever going to be comparing like subsequent films to that. And I think that's part of the problem with a movie like Dog Soldiers, is that you see familiar scenarios and familiar circumstances, and then there's an expectation that they'll rise to the occasion, but it's like sometimes you just can't.
I'm gonna do some homework on, like you mentioned, like the practical effects, the makeup and everything. I've found some from my film class, the horror film class that I took. I found some films that the professor at the time had recommended. If you like these iconic films or whatever we're covering this week, there's some other ones, and I found some splatter horror by doing that. Some more splatter horror films I've never heard of, B movies that are really probably not good, but would have some really good practical effects, apparently.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of movies on our list of future episodes that are there specifically for that reason. Not because of the quality of the film, but because I thought you might like to see some of the effects that they did.
My girlfriend's out at a brewery for this evening, so I might be watching one of those B movies.
You might indulge yourself.
So real quick, I wanted to just talk about folklore.
Okay.
So this movie does a pretty good job at secretly not making this a werewolf movie, but making this a lichen movie. There's a little. I read about a little bit of the differences between werewolves and lichens. Spoiler alert: this is a werewolf movie. But a lot of
in case you didn't know.
So there are attacks that happen at daytime and not when the moon is out. I noticed that in this movie, which made me think, I'm like, well, maybe these aren't werewolves, but when you actually see the monsters, like, okay, these are werewolves. And then we find out later that it is. But lichens are actually, of the two, are the ones that actually can just be in the daytime. And he was doing a good job of following the rules too. And Silver wouldn't have done anything to him. You have to, it said like decapitate him or remove the spine from the body or some shit. But he doesn't, and it ends up going just back to werewolves.
It's a little hazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they do, by the end of the movie, they kind of establish what the rules are. But in the early goings, there's actually like one rule that got tossed out there that I had never heard of. Perhaps you had. They mention a unibrow as a symptom of werewolfism or lycanthropy.
That just sounds like mean Scots talk to me. Like, oh yeah.
I mean, everyone else in the room like seemed to know about that. Maybe it's a UK thing.
Dude, I had subtitles on for this movie, and I had to look up slang in this movie.
Oh yeah, no, this is a very
Scottish
British film.
Yeah.
If you've ever encountered that, good for you, because there's going to be a lot of terminology and a lot of accents that are going to give you some grief.
Yeah, I had to look up a few.
Yeah, I had the subtitles on as well. I mean, that's normal for me, but so I may as well give a plot rundown.
Yeah.
So this movie is about a squad of, I think, British Army guys fooling around the woods. They're doing maneuvers or something, and they're supposed to be coming into contact with a SAS unit in the woods in Scotland.
In the Highlands. They're in the Highlands.
In the Highlands of Scotland. So it's British Army guys versus SAS, and it's a training exercise of some sort with, no live ammunition, stun grenades only. And over the course of the film, it becomes apparent that training exercise is completely botched because there's something out there in the woods that tore apart the SAS unit and now is coming after both the Army guys and the SAS. And it turns out to be werewolves.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in with the opening scene, if that's cool.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we have a nice Scottish couple. They're next to their tent. Looks like they're just doing a little bit of camping with each other.
I love you. Always have.
Always have. They're getting married by the moonlight by some weird Scottish priest. No, it's Braveheart. But they're sitting there talking. It's interesting. I did not expect these two to die because, I don't know, they develop these characters a little bit better than we do with, I think, in American horror films, of the first people that die, like, oh, no, these are the dead people. Like,
not only that, there's a thing in American horror movies, typically slasher movies, where the casting spells it out to you how valuable these characters are.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, she's insanely hot and her shirt is off
Yeah.
within 5 seconds of meeting her. She's dead. And that dude's name is Chad, and he's trying to bang her. He's dead.
Yeah.
These two are kind of homely looking, and they look like a genuinely happy couple.
Yeah.
And apparently he's a writer or something, and they're just hanging out in the woods.
Yeah, they give him an occupation, and you can tell that it's his birthday or like there's some kind of celebration. Like they're hanging out. She gives him.
They seem like decent folks.
She gives him a letter opener because he's a writer, and it's made of silver, which is a really nice gift. And then they're about to get down to some tent fucking, and I like this gag with the zipper. He starts unzipping her pants, and he stops because there's a zipper still going, and it's the zipper to the tent.
That was cute.
I thought I like that. And then then she gets hacked. She doesn't there's no screaming in this scene, by the way.
There is, and I actually made note of it. The stock scream sounds that they used for her, I think, were also used in Nintendo 64 GoldenEye. And it's a little pathetic.
Oh, man.
It's a little pathetic.
I thought you were gonna say it was the Wilhelm.
It's like, come on, not a single audio technician on this film has a wife or a girlfriend or a sister or a daughter that can come into the booth for 5 seconds.
No one's got a chum or a chap that can do a funny girl scream. Oh, you gotta listen to me. Go listen to the woman scream.
I mean, at least that would make me laugh.
Yeah.
If like the lady's supposed to be screaming, you just do.
Yeah, nothing. They are dispatched from this world, and then 2 hours prior to this, we get it reminded me of the opening scene of Hard Target, because that's the only thing I've seen. That's the only part I've seen is just a dude running. Or
the opening scene of Wild Wild West.
Yeah, yeah. I had a legit laugh here. So there's a strawberry blonde gentleman. He's running, and he's in like civvies, and these guys are all in like military clothes, and he starts getting into a fight, and the flashlight to the head, I laughed out loud to that. That was pretty funny.
I did too. I called it flashlight foo. It's very, very early 2000s. It's like, we're gonna do some complicated martial arts here just because, even though it doesn't make any sense.
We've definitely covered comedy horrors before. This is stepping onto comedy horror, because the jokes are, there's physical jokes. I don't think that there's much dialogue jokiness. I mean, they try to, but it's just hackneyed. But there's a lot of physical comedy in here that goes unnoticed. Like it's really interesting. Maybe it
has an interesting tone because all the acting, like all the dialogue exchanges and the emotional intensity is there.
Yeah,
like it feels
like a real movie.
Compliment that I'll pay to this movie is that the actors did show up to play.
I agree.
Like they actually gave a shit and they delivered their lines with aplomb. But yeah, the physical aspect of it though, there's a lot of like slapstick shit in this movie that doesn't feel right, but
it's done well though.
Yeah, it's well done. It's just like, really, we're doing that now? Okay.
But it's so subtle and so like fast paced that you wouldn't even know. It's not a gag. Like you wouldn't even notice it. Like there's one scene with the mail slot, which I thought was really funny. We'll get to that. But yeah, anyway.
So this character's name is Cooper or Coop, and he's played by Kevin McKidd, who, as far as I know, he's most known for being on that HBO show Rome.
Okay.
I'm almost positive, I could be wrong, but I think he was on Grey's Anatomy for a while.
I remember him from Trainspotting. I think he's the. You haven't seen Trainspotting, have you?
No.
Yep.
It's on the list, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Future episode, we potentially will catch up on, or I will catch up on Trainspotting. But
Kingdom of Heaven.
Like 10 years ago, I remember he put out a demo reel. Like him, a professional working actor, put out a demo reel of him working with a stunt crew and doing like a fight scene with like 3 dudes. And it was because I guess he was doing like Grey's Anatomy shit for too long, and he was wanting to get back to doing burly action man movies. Clearly it didn't work out because I haven't seen him since, but I remember it was really interesting seeing his reel pop up on a website I used to frequent.
He's in Hannibal.
Normally it's like indie people.
He's in Hannibal Rising, which I like. I'll admit it. I like.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before. I haven't seen it.
It's not good, but I like it, and it shouldn't. Like I think I mentioned before, it shouldn't be called. It shouldn't be a Hannibal movie. You could have just made a new cannibal movie. But anyway, I think that he's lost out to the Norwegian gentleman from Game of Thrones, and he's also in that Thing remake. And
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean. I think he's lost quite a bit to Sean Bean because he looks like he could have had him some roles. He's a good looking dude. He's tough. He's tough. He's manly. But
yeah, he's got the ruddy complexion and the right wrinkles, and he's got that Scottish accent. He
could be good. He could be bad. I mean,
no, he seems like a decent actor because I was actually impressed with him.
Yeah,
like I thought he was very good.
So yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, he's running through the woods. It's raining. It sucks out, and then he gets cornered by a bunch of dudes, and it turns out that this was a part of some sort of SAS training exercise. So they, through some exposition, we learn that his CO is like proud of him for having survived apparently in this rainstorm for 23 hours, evading capture. But there's like one last element to his training that he needs to pass, and that involves shooting a dog.
Yeah. It's pretty rough. So this is actually this actor Liam Cunningham.
Yeah.
What's his name in this? Captain Ryan.
Yeah.
He's from Game of Thrones, and he's a really affable character. He's really likable in that show. I really like him in that show, and he's a really good guy, which is
he's a very charismatic actor.
But
like he seems like he should be narrating like war history dramas or something.
He's a bad guy in this, and when he screams at him at one point, like it's fierce, like it's intense. But he's basically telling him, he's like, if you don't shoot the dog, you're making moral decisions or something like that, and I can't have that on my team. He's like, no, you're gonna do it. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it because I have no reason to. He's like, I'll shoot a dog. I'm not gonna shoot this dog though because I don't want to. And I thought maybe this was a test, and he was gonna be like, good. And he's just like, no. And he doesn't shoot the dog. Like the bad guy shoots the dog.
Captain Ryan shoots this dog in the brain, and as soon as that happens, it's like everyone in the audience is like, well, he's gonna get torn open. Yeah. Like something bad's gonna happen to him.
You can't kill a dog and be the good guy in a movie.
Yeah, you can't kill a dog. You can't punch a kid.
You can't redeem yourself after that.
No, after that, like, if you don't die in the movie, the whole audience is gonna go home angry. They're gonna riot in the streets.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote the script is going to have their house burnt down. It's not going to be pretty. So we flash forward 4 weeks later, I think.
Yeah, 2 flashes pretty early. I had to stop and like, hang on a sec.
Well, not like a flash backwards, like 2 hours too. It's very strange.
So did we flash back? Did we go forward 4 weeks and 2 hours, or just 4 weeks?
Because then it assume 4 weeks.
Because then it should be
from 2 hours earlier.
It should be dark out still. So this is bullshit.
This is bullshit. This is the worst script ever written. I hate it. Downvote. Do not like and subscribe. So we cut to a helicopter, which does not look military to me. It looks very civvy.
Yeah.
I don't know what the British use for their helicopters, but it looks like something that just has army painted on the side of it. It looks like something you'd use to get to Jurassic Park.
Pretty much.
So this helicopter lands in the middle of the Scottish Highlands, and it drops off, I think, about a half dozen army guys.
Yeah, half a dozen.
They all
little over half a dozen.
Yeah, they hoof it into the woods, and then like as soon as they touch down, though, like half of the guys ditch their helmets.
Yeah,
like,
I noticed.
Literally
that.
toss them onto the ground. I was like, what?
Well, they have little yellow things on the tip, like that orange painted tip that you get with toy guns. That lets us know that this is a training exercise, and then you've got dudes just popping their hats off, and they're like, okay, this is a training exercise.
We're serious, but we're not that serious.
Yeah.
And also, you know, the audience probably appreciates being able to see everyone's faces clearly to introduce everyone right away.
Yeah.
So we get introduced to the crew. Most prominent among them, of course, is Cooper.
Yeah.
Kevin McKidd, who we've already met. So we learn that, he's part of this army unit. But the real standout here is a fella, I actually had to look up his name. His name is Sean Pertwee. Dang, that's a name.
Yeah.
This is a veteran British character actor that's done a lot of sci-fi and horror movies and stuff. He's always welcome. I've never seen him turn in a bad performance. He's always very charismatic, and he's really fucking good in this movie.
I guess Gotham is still going on, and he's a pretty big deal on that. I didn't know that show was still on.
Neither did I. My brother said it was awful.
I'm not surprised.
Like, he derives ironic enjoyment from laughing at it, apparently. Anyway, he plays the sergeant, and immediately I started to, I don't know if this is just me, but I started to, like, establish parallels between this movie and Aliens.
Yeah.
So he's Sergeant Apone, and it's no mystery that Cooper very quickly becomes the Hicks of the group.
Another beautiful day in the Corps.
Yeah. And then there's a fella named Joe who is bitching about a soccer game that he's going to be missing.
I just want to watch him watch this match, because I can tell you right now that if he does get his way and he got to watch this match, it was not going to go the way. Germany were going to win 4-0. I'm telling you right now. I just want to watch him melt down. Fuck's sake.
For fuck's sake. No, this Joe guy is all about his football. All about the footy.
I mean,
he will not shut the fuck up about this goddamn soccer match.
He's in the military, and he's bitching to his sergeant, like, I would rather be back watching the fucking game. This is just a training exercise. I want out of this chicken shit outfit.
You beat me to it. Yeah. Basically, I said Joe is the Hudson of the group. Mm-hmm.
I know a Hudson when I see one, and...
Point. Yeah. So yeah, there's so much jargon in this movie, and it comes at such a rapid pace.
It can make Guy Ritchie's nose bleed. That's how quick it's going.
There's just so much Britishisms and Armyisms in this movie that it's like you don't understand most of it, but it just sounds cool. It sounds badass.
If you're watching this, you've seen something along those lines. You understand what's happening.
The one line I caught here, though, when they first touch down is basically the Sarge, Mr. Pertwee. He gives a rundown of the situation. So we're gonna traipse around the woods. There's some SAS guys out there that we're gonna have to tangle with. Let's do our best and kick ass. The one line that I caught in here, though, that I wrote down, I thought was pretty awesome. He says, "I expect nothing less than gratuitous violence from the lot of you."
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. That'll get you motivated.
There's some funny lines in here.
There's quite a few. I wrote some of them down.
Oh, I mean, just in this one scene.
Yeah, no, pretty much anything that comes out of his mouth is gold. Like, it was coming so fast that I couldn't write it down, but he definitely stood out among this group.
I fast forwarded through this part on my notes. I put it down as jawing, walking, sitting, whistling.
We get a couple of montages of them just like traipsing through the woods, getting from place to place. There's not much that happens. It may as well be a helicopter shot from Lord of the Rings, minus the pretty scenery.
Oh, that's smart, Peter Jackson. That's a good way. I never thought about that. That's a good way to show that they're walking and not just have them like just actually walking. Like, oh, let's get a nice landscape shot in here. Let's get it all in. Smart, PJ.
Only difference is this movie didn't have enough money to afford a helicopter for more than an afternoon.
The Lord of the Rings could have solved like some kind of cancer. Like, it could have cured a cancer with the amount of money that went into the production of those 3 movies. Easily. 2 cancers. 2 cancers.
Well, 6 movies now, if you count the Hobbits. Oh yeah, and apparently the most expensive television history in the history of television. Amazon is making a Hobbit show. Or a Lord of the Rings show.
I literally just finished reading The Hobbit, and then I'm like, I'm going to watch the movies. So the first one's good. I like the first Hobbit movie. The other 2, really, like, they add stuff into it, and then the second one, you just lose it. The third one, I couldn't watch. I could not get through it.
I don't actually know anyone who's watched it.
I don't think it can be done, Trevor. I don't think it can be done. I don't think
you don't understand. It's not possible.
I don't think he made a third movie. So
it doesn't exist.
There is a sequence in the film and the book where they're wandering through the forest and they're like all dazed and hazy, and they're like keep going in circles. And in the book, they keep coming upon these elves eating at a table, and they keep going up to see them, and then they disappear. It's the Lee Pace's character from the movies, and it just keeps happening in the book. They don't show that in the movie, but I think he puts a spell on you in that second movie. And they're like, oh yes, there's a third one, but there's
a third movie.
There's no third movie, Trevor. It doesn't exist.
You will recall that it exists, but you'll never find it.
Real quick before I forget,
it was real.
I wanted to ask you, have you seen the Sam Neill? I just watched The Hunt for the Wilder People a few weeks ago, so he's been on my mind. Did you see the 3-part miniseries Merlin movie that Sam Neill did?
I did.
I kind of want to do an episode on that in the near future. I put it on there. It's on Prime right now, which is why I looked it up. And also it's on Prime.
I'd be down for that. I barely remember it because I saw it when it first aired.
Exactly.
My parents recorded it on VHS.
That's exactly how I watched it too. We recorded it.
However, the tape got scrambled.
Gotcha.
So I only got to watch it the one time when it was originally airing. I may not have finished it either because I seem to recall having to go to bed a couple of times before the episode ended.
That's gonna have to come up here soon. I enjoyed that.
We'll add it to the list.
Okay. I already added it, and I highlighted it green because it's on Prime. All right. Sorry, I digress. Let's keep going.
So the one major thing that comes out of the sequence of them walking through the woods is when they make a campfire.
Yeah.
So they're hanging out. They're all doing the military thing where people swap stories. Thankfully, nobody talks about going to Fenway Park and getting a hot dog, or talking about their mom's cooking, or 2 days to retirement, whatever cliches.
I would act like I was asleep and my mom would come home. Giovanni Ribisi is very sad.
I don't know why I did that. Hey Sarge, what did you do back in the world? I was a school teacher. Blah 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 blah. And nobody has any photos of their girlfriend taped to the inside of their helmet, thankfully.
She reminds me of my niece.
That would have made me laugh so hard if somebody did that. If somebody had to save a child from a werewolf.
Sorry, sir. Directly disobeying an order. Sorry, sir, she reminds me of my niece.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Sorry, Vin, you had that coming.
He deserved
Caparzo
to die.
or whatever.
Caparzo. Gosh. Yeah. Caparzo always dies.
That guy's dead.
You are too
from the get-go.
You are too Italian. Caparzo was the that not Ben Affleck dude, whatever his the handsome guy.
Ed Burns?
Yeah, Ed Burns. Yeah. That was Caparzo. I'm like, dude, you are too Italian from Brooklyn to be in this outfit. Okay.
It would have been so funny if after the beach landing, they reconvene, they reconnoiter, and everybody's just like, how the fuck did you survive?
I would put money down that Sizemore clocked him one time on that set. Just one time. I can tell you right now they did not get along.
Sizemore clocked somebody. I may as well have been him. You gotta go for the biggest guy in the yard,
Hey, hop him. Hop him.
Hop him. Come over here.
Come here, you little fucker.
Hey, you want to get me some cigarettes from off base?
Cigarettes. They're not letting me off here. I got a curfew at 10. Steve's not letting me go. Hey, do you know where I can get some blow? Oh, I'm sorry.
He's got that one suit. Just always ready to go.
It's ready to go.
For whatever reason.
Ready to go.
For whatever court date he has.
Yeah, community
next
service.
Weekend, probably. Oh my god, that'd be so funny if they had to shut down production on Private Ryan because Sizemore had to go to court. Steve. Tom, I got a date this weekend.
Tom, you tell him he doesn't hate you.
Anyway,
sorry.
Cooper, they're all swapping stories, and
they keep asking each other what they're afraid of. What are you? It's weird how they jump into. They're like, "What are you afraid of?" And they just kind of go back and forth.
If I remember right, we cut away from this and we see that Captain Ryan is in the woods with them. So he has the drop on them. He knows they're out there. They don't know where he is, but he's observing them at a distance. And I think this is when we get to the campfire scene proper. We start swapping stories, and
he gets attacked.
Everybody starts
first.
listing off the worst elements of the human condition. One of them says castration.
Yeah.
Joe, of course, says missing football. And Cooper, Kevin McKidd, says spiders and women. Or
spider women.
Which I thought was very clever and actually comes into play later in the movie. Namely the women thing.
Yeah. And then the sergeant has a little... They ask the sergeant what he's afraid of, and I don't want to say the story, but it's a good little story, and it's kind of... The dialogue's really good. Like, he delivers it really well, and you get a really good picture of what he's talking about. And it's pretty heavy. And then...
Yeah, I won't go into the details of it because he told it really well.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a story about a friend of his dying in Iraq, and just the experience of losing a friend, but having that moment of losing the friend be instantaneous, but the fallout from it taking some time to like hit you.
Yeah. Specifically seeing pieces of that friend. Like,
yeah, so the friend gets turned into chunky salsa.
Yeah.
But like over the course of however long a time, like they find pieces of him, and then they find like a preserved piece of him that has like a tattoo that spells it out to him that this hunk of flesh used to be my friend. And then he gets interrupted by a dead cow.
Oh no!
A flying dead cow.
This is where I got the jump scare, because I believe Joe, to cut the tension, like this is a tense little scene. So I believe it's Joe starts telling a joke, and he's just working through the joke, and I got a legit jump scare because I was watching this on my laptop while Steph was in here, and she's like, "You just gasp like out loud. You just had a gasp." The cow dropping in, like I'm like, oh shit! I was not expecting it. It was a legit jump scare. Like,
yeah, it's akin to, well, no, it's not. I was about to say it's like Where's the Goat, except without the preface of.
Nope,
Where's
it
the
is.
Goat.
It is okay. That's the third.
It's very sudden.
There's 3 instances. That's the third instance of a Jurassic Park ripoff. Thank you.
But yeah, so a butchered dead cow just flops into the middle of this group, and the way they handle this is really strange because, like, of course the Sarge whips everyone up into shape and says, like, everybody, okay, we're gonna take shifts now. We gotta have people, scouting the woods, make sure that we don't get ambushed here. But nobody seems to be bothered by the fact that a 1,000-pound animal just dropped from the sky.
That's because the sergeant gives my favorite line in the movie, and I quote, because they want him to call in. They're like, we got to get out of here. Like, this is stupid. And he goes, you're a bunch of pansies, pretty much. He goes, there's no way I'm going to break radio silence because you lot got spooked by a dead flying fucking cow.
Like I said, there are some choice lines in this movie that are actually quite good.
I'm like, think about what you just said. Why was there a cow flying?
How did it get there? How did it get airborne? And it's like nobody seems bothered by this.
They're bothered, but the sergeant's just like, you guys are a bunch of pussies. This happens all the time.
Just shut up, go to sleep.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, cut to an ugly time-lapse shot of a moon. Pretty ratty footage. I'm sure it was stock footage, but it just looks terrible. And then we get to see that Captain Ryan is still on their trail, so he's observing from a distance with night vision binoculars. And then we get a separate viewpoint, a perspective shot in like gray heat vision, basically. So it's like gray vision, and it's observing him. Mm-hmm. And then this gray vision Evil Dead's him. The camera runs into him, essentially, and then we see some blood splatter on a rock. So it's implied that Captain Ryan, the prick, was offed by something in the woods. And then I think this is when the Army guys finally find the SAS encampment.
Yeah, they find the SAS encampment. It's disgusting. The sergeant does a pretty good job of getting the guys together. Like, a couple of them are trying to freak out. The other one's dawdling, like, trying to mess with other stuff. And he's like, all right, listen, bitches, get the guns. This is real now. Get on the radio. And he's like, I can't get anybody on the radio. And he's like, well, get the other radio. And, like, this radio's busted, too. So, like, fuck, we're going to have to...
I think this is also when they find that the radio equipment's been bugged. Like, it has some sort of tracer unit in it.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
But, there's a bunch of MP5s at the encampment, So whoever did this didn't take the equipment, and they swap out their L-85s, their British assault rifles, for German submachine guns with live ammo. And while they're sacking the place, though, that's when they discover Captain Ryan. He's not dead.
Davos from Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's his character name?
Sir Davos. Yeah.
Maybe I saw him. Was he in the first season?
Yeah, I believe so.
He hangs out with the platinum blonde lady?
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
That's
I have seen him on that show. Okay.
You're thinking of the guy from Resident Evil, and Tomb Raider. He hangs out with the blonde lady.
Oh, okay.
Different guy.
Okay, maybe I'm full of shit. I've only seen the first season of Game of Thrones, and that's about it.
Yeah, you can keep those first 2 seasons. They're not that great. They're really not. The third season is when it really gets its stride, and it fucking picks up. So yeah, they get him, and he keeps saying there was only supposed to be one. There was only supposed to be one. So we're like, okay, so it sounds like he's been up to no good. They take him with, like, they bandage him up. It looked like he died for a second. There was one shot where he just kind of stops, like he goes kind of ghost white. I'm like, did he just die? I'm like, okay, that was weird, but he doesn't die. He keeps going.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of just walking through the woods.
Yeah. What happens here? Oh, fun line, by the way. As they're loading up the live ammunition and stuff, the Sarge calls out, like, if you see anything out there in the woods, be it like Little Red Riding Hood or whatever, I expect you to tin the bitch. That's a good line.
What is that supposed to mean? I thought it was some kind of slang.
I'm guessing shoot him.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm like, I looked it up on Urban Dictionary. I looked up a few things on Urban Dictionary, learned some things. That was one. I'm like, tin the bitch. I'm like, I guess shoot, but we'll just chalk it up to that.
But one other thing that Cooper points out, though, is that this camp has, I mean, it's very obviously the SAS camp, so these are the people who are supposed to be opposing them in this training op. They have tranquilizers and nets, and Coop notices this, and he's a little like, why would special forces have nets and tranquilizers? It's almost as if the commanding officer of this mission is Robert Muldoon or something.
So yeah, they're walking.
And then they pack up Captain Ryan, and they decide to head to the rendezvous point, I guess, where they'll be picked up by a chopper or something. Yeah. And we get a really cool scene where it's like a minute long, and everybody's like taking up positions. They're getting ready to head out, and the Sarge is just rattling off awesomeness. It's just too fast, man. I couldn't write this shit down, but he concludes it by just like shouting, mostly to himself, I think. So, come on, sunshine, fucking shit dicks.
Yeah, that's one I had to look up.
Shit dicks.
Yeah, that one's you don't want to use. That's not good. That's not something you want. Don't call somebody that in the UK. It will not be met with kindness. So, yeah, there's some grab-assing happening around. Like, I called it playing soldiers out in the woods, because they kind of, one's just kind of going up in front, and then he gets killed by, this is where I was like, okay, these are Likens, because this is happening in daytime. He gets fucked up by one of the boys.
Our first on-screen casualty in this movie, besides the gal getting ripped out of the tent, is an accident.
Not the guy. Is that the first death? That's not the first death. The guy running into the... No, there's a dude that dies before that.
Really?
Yeah, because I have intestines is my note. The sergeant.
Oh, Sarge?
Yeah.
No, Sarge comes after him because Sarge comes to save him.
Oh, okay, yes. So he impales himself. He gets Conan'd. I love that scene.
Yeah, if you've ever seen Conan the Barbarian,
he
there's
gets
a fellow with Iron Maiden hair that... Oh, it's
Sven
Ole Thorsen.
Sven Ole Thorsen, yeah. He
gets an awesome
death.
impalement. One of the best of all time.
He should have shook his hand, because that's an awesome way to go out, because it is fucking brutal.
I love Arnold cocking his head when he's looking at him.
He's just like up close, kind of looking at him.
You got something in your chest. You might want to pull it out or something.
It's pretty good. But yeah, he gets impaled, and the lichen rips him off, and then the Sarge is out looking for him. Basically, he tries to kill the lichen. He gets swiped or smacked, or either way, he gets cut across the belly, spilling it four. That's four. Spilling the intestines.
Dr. Grant.
He was calling Spielberg a pussy because he didn't show the intestines spilling out.
Or maybe across the belly, spilling your intestines.
This was a funny. I had a good laugh at this. Not him with the intestines hanging out, but because that is fucking chilling in Saving Private Ryan when you see that in that opening sequence.
Yeah.
But he's sitting there, and one of the guys. Now, one of the things I know that if your intestines fall out, you can survive, but you're not supposed to put them back in. And one of the guys starts putting them back in, and the sergeant's like, "Don't put it back in. What are you doing?" I had a legit laugh at that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, I kind of laughed because this is where this movie's like very strange sense of humor starts to creep in a bit. So Cooper shows up, and he manages to scare off this thing that still hasn't been confirmed to be a werewolf or a lichen or whatever. We've only caught like a couple frame glimpses of it. He fends it off, and then he goes to assist Cooper. He goes to assist the Sarge, who again has his guts hanging out. And Coop starts like trying to shove his guts back into his stomach, and the whole time they're yelling at each other, and the Sarge is like, "They're not gonna fit.
They're not gonna fit." They fit before.
Like his tone and delivery is just kind of funny.
Well, I think what's weird about the movie, like this is like walking a line between dark comedy and just not knowing where to place the jokes in a serious movie. Like if you think about Die Hard, like where he's like making the emergency call, and she's like, "This is an emergency channel." He's like, "Well, no fucking shit, lady. It sounds like I'm ordering a pizza." Like that's a funny moment in a tense scene, but we don't have intestines hanging out and somebody putting it back in. But the delivery is like sincere. It's like, no, it's not gonna fit. It would be fun if this was like a farce or some kind of like parody movie. It would be funny of them trying to like stick it back in, or Tropic Thunder. They do it at the beginning of Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, with the arms or whatever.
It's just a creative way to make dark comedy, I guess. Maybe he didn't realize that's what he was doing when he was doing these jokes. Maybe not.
I mean, there are certain things that clearly are meant to be funny, but I'm not sure if this was, but I laughed.
I laughed.
I don't know what that says about me.
I think it was supposed to be funny.
Anyway, we all start falling back, and we get the first major alien encounter from Aliens, where the colonial marines get ambushed, and everything starts going to shit.
Yeah.
Major difference being all of our guys here in Dog Soldiers make it out, actually. The one fella got impaled. He's dead.
He did to himself. That
it was his
happen.
fault, man. He got himself killed. But yeah, we all start falling back, and our merry band of army troops, they're all shooting off into the distance. We don't really get a good glimpse of what they're firing at, but we know whatever it is, they're kind of panicked, and they're just trying to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of perspective shots. Very clearly, the werewolf vision is represented by gray perspective shots. On occasion, they put them up high because these werewolves are quite tall.
Yeah, they're Pumpkinhead. They reminded me of Pumpkinhead a little bit.
In fact, like the last shot we see of them has like very clearly actors on stilts.
Yeah,
it's a kind of a cool visual.
It is.
Like, I actually kind of like the look of the werewolves in this movie.
I appreciate. I mean, because of budget, I'm sure. There's not a lot of CGI in this.
I didn't see any, to be honest, except for maybe a couple of moon shots or something.
It was when Davos is the captain is changing the nails on the table.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit here and there. It's very, very small wherever it's at, but it's a lot of people with with the prosthetic hands basically doing Jurassic Park behind the door once they get to the cabin. Yeah.
So as we're falling back through the woods, a random Jeep just pulls up on the road, and it's being driven by a young lady.
A posh lady.
Yeah.
You know that
actually,
line.
it's one of the better lines in this movie towards the end.
Fuck, I love it. Yeah, that's good. That's a good line.
But yeah, this posh lady pulls up in a Jeep, and all of our army guys file into the Jeep, and amazingly enough, everybody fits, including Captain Ryan and everything. And we get a fun little scene where a werewolf hand punches in through the roof, and one of our guys jabs a knife into its forearm. It's pretty savage looking, because he jams this knife right into the middle of its forearm.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And yeah, they get away. Aliens tribute completed. In fact, I seem to recall there being some bugle music or trumpet music or something that sounded kind of reminiscent of Aliens here. And we also get our first almost look at what these werewolves look like, because as it's trying to get its arm through the roof, you can see its snout in the window.
Yeah,
but that's it. So we're doing the really calculated move here with the editing, where it's we're gonna reveal the monster in pieces.
Yeah,
we're gonna take our time with this, and I respect that, because you don't want to blow your wad too early when it comes to your grand reveal of your monster.
Yeah.
Then we pull up to a farmhouse.
They get to the farmhouse, and this is where I had a problem with the movie, because we just kind of do the same scene 3 times in a row before we actually do anything. So they're pretty much just stuck in this house, and they're basically getting ready for them to try to break through the house a few times. We do get the Lycan trying to bust through the door at one point, and I had written down the dog biting on the dude's intestines.
That was fun.
I had a pretty good laugh at that. Also, I know my dogs, and my dog Rue, she actually is a border collie mix, so she looks a lot like this dog. So I'm yep, I can definitely see her doing that. No, Rue, get off of the intestines. It's not food.
Yeah, we pull up to the farmhouse. It's clearly recently inhabited because the stove is still on.
Yeah.
There's a tea kettle on and everything. A creepy house. There's lots of antlers and skulls adorning the walls.
See, I must have missed it. I thought this was her house that they were going to.
I'm not sure if it was explicitly stated in the early goings. It's revealed later.
Exactly. I don't think it was. So this entire time I was... Well, she says... Okay, so we need to know if it was explicitly stated, because at one point somebody asked where the bathroom is, and she knows exactly where it's at.
Yeah.
So I was under the assumption that this was her house, and she took them back there.
I have the Wikipedia pulled up. It says...
we could look it up.
The group meets Megan, a zoologist, who takes them to a lonely house belonging to an unknown family.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's a little... If I would have known that, it would have been oh, how does she know where the bathroom is?
Well, put it this way. On my notes, and again, I rewatched this movie basically remembering none of it. In my notes, I said, farmhouse, guaranteed siege scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Are the owners going to be the werewolves? Creepy building, lots of antlers and skulls. So right off the bat, I suspected as much, even without knowing. I
did not suspect that. I thought that I was under the impression that the captain had gotten out, and everybody was getting hunted by these, and he's fuck, there was only supposed to be one out here. Maybe it was might take my boys out here, we have to kill this thing, and there's only supposed to be one of them out here, something like that. But and then it just grew exponentially.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, when we're first going into the farmhouse, Cooper is investigating the living room and stuff, and we get a dog jump scare instead of a cat. Customarily, it's always a cat.
Dick Tracy.
And,
cat.
Yeah. And then turns out this dog sticks with us pretty much through the end of the film.
Yeah, I like this dog.
Yeah, I did too. It was a cute dog. And yeah, I happened to notice, I'm not sure if the soldiers noticed this, but I noticed that this lady is super comfortable with a gutted man in the room with her.
Yeah.
There's a guy with his guts literally hanging out, and she's just fine with it.
I mean, yeah, she's definitely doing Marion Ravenclaw versus the whoever was in that second Indiana Jones. Like, she's very grounded and aware of the situation, and those are kind of the two that you get in horror movies. You're either going to get the one who's totally grounded or the other one who's hysterical, which the second Indiana Jones.
Willie.
Borderline unwatchable now for me.
Yeah, good old Willie. Spielberg's wife. She's in there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it ain't her singing voice. So yeah, one thing that jumped out at me here is that when they're in the Jeep, she's basically explaining to them that she's aware that there's some shit out in the woods, and she's looking for help, so she was like kind of happy to run across them.
Yeah.
Which, is a little suspicious, but given the circumstances, we'll hand wave it away.
Well, she hadn't listened to our episode on 28 Days Later yet, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a conversation here in the kitchen where Cooper has basically assumed command. Nobody seems to have a problem with it, because Sarge is gutted.
I'm comfortable with it.
Nice little editing trick here, where, again, like you said, some of the conversations in this movie get a little monotonous, especially at this stage in the film. But they give him like a literal egg timer that he's spinning on the table. So instead of just cut to, action reaction between two people talking, we get to cut to his hand like spinning this egg timer while he's thinking about things, and it just breaks up the visual monotony that can sometimes come from dialogue scenes. And I like that, especially when they end the conversation. He punctuates it by like standing it up and like banging it on the table, and he's like, okay, we move. 5 meter spread. And then we get a weird thing that happens where the idea is we're all going to move out together. She hints that there's like another farmstead or something nearby, and then we try to go outside and the Jeep has been torn to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how the fuck did they fuck the Jeep without anyone noticing? Like, that would make quite a bit of noise.
Yeah, these guys can tiptoe a little bit. There's another Jurassic Park scene in here where the guy's sitting in the car and he's just like, "You're behind me, aren't you?" And like, how the fuck did it get in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these are like supernatural creatures. I don't know the rules, but literally tearing a Jeep to shreds, that makes some noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time we get outside, Jeep is fucked. And then I think we get our first attack sequence on the house, which is where the editing in this part was kind of fun because of the dog business.
Yeah.
So basically, when we come back into the house, a werewolf tries to follow them in, and so we get everybody braced up against the door trying to keep it out. And while they're tangling with this werewolf at the door, poor Sarge is sitting in the corner, and this dog, the friendly dog,
is so cute,
just like bites one of his intestines and starts like yanking on it.
I love collies, man. I love border collies. So I was just like, oh, no, you're not supposed to be playing with that. You're not supposed to be playing with that. No.
And yeah, it's playing tug of war with this man and his guts.
It's really funny.
It is funny.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it's meant to be, and if it is, it's very dark. Like it's
very dark, and I think it is meant to be funny because when we fend off this werewolf, and the way we do so is through the mail slot. Cooper sticks his MP5 in the mail slot and shoots it out the door.
Like, one of the things that the sergeant says is like, "Hey, conserve your ammo," which you should always do. These dudes are like video game wasting bullets in here.
Oh yeah, all throughout the movie, even after we've explicitly stated on camera, 3-shot bursts, conserve your ammunition. Everybody's just going Tommy
Contra.
gun.
It's like Contra without switching guns. Contra 3. They've got both guns going and doing flips with this shit. Just
somersaults.
Yeah, just doing
machine guns. It's like, release the Y button for one goddamn second.
I didn't do that in Contra. I would just walk with my gun charged. Just keep going.
But yeah, it needs to be said, every time there's gunfire in this movie, they are full auto. They're spraying and praying. It is slightly unprofessional.
Spraying and praying. That's a good way to put it.
But yeah, even Cooper, who is the one pleading with everyone, please, for the love of God, conserve your ammunition. Even he resorts to sticking his submachine gun through the mail slot and just blah.
Do you remember Tropic Thunder, where Ben Stiller's the only one that doesn't think that it's like, he thinks it's all fake, so he does like that roll and then he does that like there's a trailer shot. Like, that's how much they're shooting in here. It's just
it's ridiculous. Oh my God, do you know how many people would be slipping on shell casings and stuff?
Oh yeah,
be like fucking Home Alone.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like Kevin McAllister's there trying to keep you out of the house.
Be like, where's Marv? Get Marv in here.
Marv?
Somebody's gotta take a pratfall here.
We just watched Home Alone 3, Home Alone 2, Home Alone 1 in that order. We did the full shift right there.
Oh wow. I mean, that's good time.
Yeah. The third one's not as bad as you think it is.
You know, I saw that in school. It was like a winter like substitute teacher movie or something.
Nice. Winter substitute teacher. That's money, dude.
Yeah, that's the ultimate in apathy. We fend off the first werewolf attack, and the reason why I say I think this was intended to be funny, the gag with the guts.
Yeah.
The gag with the guts.
Yeah.
Is the scene ends with one of our fellas, I think it was Spoonie. Spoonie pukes on Captain Ryan's head.
Yeah.
Captain Ryan, during the chaos, is actually
about to
shoot the dog.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does, apparently. So you can either fight off the werewolf or address the dog that's yanking on the guy's guts. He goes straight for the dog.
I've thought about this, and I understand where he's coming from. I have to think about it because I have a barky dog sometimes. She hears something, she starts barking. I'm like, if there's zombies outside and we have to keep quiet, or like we're in a situation where we have to stay absolutely quiet, I'm like, she's a fucking problem because she doesn't listen when we say don't bark. And
so you're Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds, and she's Tim Robbins.
I might have to, yeah. I might have to put him out. I might have to put her down.
So the other dog is Dakota Fanning watching you be cool dad.
I forgot about that scene.
It's one of the more questionable scenes in that movie. I happen to like that movie.
Is it good? I remember liking parts of it. I remember, maybe I need to watch it now, but I've also seen the Scary Movie where they make fun of it so many times.
Spoiler alert, there are two scenes in that movie that I have serious problems with. There's that one, and then there's when Tom Cruise's son leaves.
Yeah, that was dumb. I remember that.
The reason why I have a problem with it is because the son comes back. He should be dead.
I don't know if you saw the Scary Movie parody of it, but when he tries to leave, and Charlie Sheen, who's playing the dad, he's like, "No, you can't go." Like, "Why, Dad? They'll pay for half of my schooling," or something like that.
Oh, well. The best gag in that Scary Movie that I remember, and maybe the only one I remember, it's the solenoid.
Which one?
The Scary Movie with Craig Bierko as Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So there's the thing where in the Worlds movie, there's a van that isn't working because like there's an EMP.
Yeah.
And the way Tom Cruise gets the van working is like he replaces the solenoid in the van.
Yeah.
And in Scary Movie they do the same thing, and it's like a running gag almost, where it's like any mechanical problem is like, oh, it's solenoid. It's like the one gag I remember from that fucking movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, we survived the first attack from the werewolves. Like I said, the scene ends with Spoonie, who's a shaven head fella who comes into play much later in the movie. He's like one of the cooler people in the movie.
I like him.
Spoonie's cool.
He boxes, doesn't he? He's the one that boxes.
Yeah, he's the werewolf boxer.
Yeah.
So he pukes on Captain Ryan's head, which I guess just puts him out so bad he just gives up on killing that dog. He's just like, whatever, man.
You're out of the tense portion of why you wanted to kill the dog, and now you've got other problems. Now you got vomit on your head. That's very serious.
Yeah, and then we get another calm before the storm moment where everybody's doing their army swapping story stuff. There was one anecdote in here that I don't know, maybe you do, but they mention a battle They call it Rock's Drift, and the way they described it was like Zulu tribesmen, I think, versus British soldiers, and it was like it basically sounded like British Thermopylae, so British 300.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not up to date on my British.
I mean, I'm not a military
history.
historian, but like,
I'm not either.
The whole idea was, I guess, it's a battle where it was many against few, and the few won or something, or died to the last man. Then we get a sequence that reminded me of Evil Dead, right? It's when we're scavenging weapons. And I was very disappointed because Spoonie finds like a broadsword in like a chest that's in the center of the living room.
Yeah.
And we get to see him swing it around. It's like, ooh, so we're gonna have a sword in this movie. Fun. And then someone gets out an electric meat carver.
I didn't catch that. I must have been writing something
they're
down.
scavenging for equipment and weapons in the house, and one of them pulls out an electric meat carver, which I don't think was ever used in the movie.
So there's I know you haven't seen it yet. Rocky Horror Picture Show I really enjoy, but there's a really odd scene where they're having turkey and Tim Curry pulls out an electric turkey carver, and it doesn't fit the scene. It doesn't make any sense of why he would put it in there. And Steph and I, we were watching this last time, like, why is that there? Like, I don't understand what that's supposed to do. Maybe it's just supposed to be funny, like you're not expecting this to happen. So yeah, I didn't even notice the electric meat carver.
Well, it just seemed like in a movie about fighting werewolves, and we've already demonstrated that we're willing to show people puke on each other, and dogs bite people's guts and stuff. It's like, yeah, you could do some serious damage with an electric meat carver and have some really gory shit, but they never used it.
The thing is, because
I thought it was going to be like the Evil Dead remake where we get some arm cutting or something.
the chainsaw face fucking.
But yeah, we go upstairs, and Coop, and the gal's name is Megan, by the way.
Yes.
They bring Sarge upstairs, and we get this really, again, kind of goofy scene where they're trying to patch him up. So Coop has Megan find some super glue in the house. The idea is they're going to use the super glue to suture his stomach, basically.
Not the best idea, but I've heard worse.
It's something.
It's something.
But they give him a bunch of booze to serve as like anesthesia. And the dialogue being exchanged here is just really silly. And at one point, it becomes clear that he feels everything they're doing to him. The booze isn't working.
Yeah.
And so he sits up and like he asks Cooper to lay him out. And without hesitation, Cooper just like slugs him right on the jaw and knocks him the fuck out.
Yeah. I thought it took longer than that in British movies, but
yeah, it's like I thought that would take like 5 hits or something, but no, it's just like whap, left hook on the jaw, and that's it.
So now we're getting to we're gonna have to defend the house again. We haven't really conjured up a plan just yet, I don't think. But they're boarding up the windows because they've lost a lot of windows. Or do they get a second attack, lose a lot of windows, boarded up, and then have to go through another attack?
At this point, we're still boarding up the house. There's actually quite a bit of space between that initial skirmish and the first like attack in earnest. This is where the subject of werewolves gets introduced to the cast of the film, so the viewer is very much aware of it.
We know what's happening.
Yeah, but the soldiers and Megan, it's not really talked about until like right about now.
Yeah, where
Megan throws it out there. It's like, okay, clearly you've seen that we're fighting some sort of wolf creatures.
Yeah.
Let's come to terms with the fact that these may be werewolves and operate from the logic that comes with that. And this is where that line about they don't use the word unibrow. I don't know if maybe that's an American colloquialism, but they do say where the eyebrows meet. Yeah, it's like werewolves. Oh, you mean where like the eyebrows meet? And I was like, so unibrow is a signifier for werewolfism?
Eyebrows, there should be two. And
this is actually where I learned a new, I don't know if it's British or British military slang, but they use the word born. They like, this is born, and apparently it's akin to bollocks.
Oh, okay.
Or foobar.
There was a couple I looked up. I can't remember what. There was one I definitely had to look up. I'm like, that's what that means. Okay. Um, Sorry, keep going.
So during this sequence, we're all exchanging ideas, getting an idea of what it is we're dealing with. A lot of anger and vitriol gets thrown at Captain Ryan, who's basically been no help to anyone. He's just kind of occupying space, and the only thing he's basically contributed is trying to kill the dog.
Yeah,
so Cooper and him go at it, like, verbally, and they start to suspect him of some sort of shenanigans because it's revealed that his bandages underneath them, he's completely healed at this point.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah. Basically what happens is Cooper's yelling at him and is upset with him for a variety of reasons, and he yanks at his shirt, basically, and it's revealed that, oh, this guy who was basically torn apart earlier is fine, and we haven't even been paying any mind to him, unlike Sarge, who we actively patched up. This guy's just been left to rot, and he's fine now. But before we can do anything about it is when the siege happens.
Did they find out that Cooper knows the captain?
That's where this comes up, is that they have a past. So we're getting fragments of the story here, but what we learn is that Captain Ryan was running some sort of maneuvers out in the woods, but the army guys were there mostly to serve as bait for something else. It wasn't a training exercise. They were hunting something.
They were expendable, as he puts it.
And Cooper's not too happy about that. And also, Cooper's unit was selected because Cooper was in it, because Captain Ryan remembered him from weeks earlier, and
he clocked him. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't mention that, but yeah, they hit each other when they parted ways.
We get this. Now, this next sequence started to remind me of Nazi zombies a little bit. We're kind of fighting off things outside, and still like trying to reboard the house. Like,
yeah, if you've ever played Call of Duty Black Ops, the zombie mode is very reminiscent of this.
And then this was one of my. So there's a few funny gags coming up, but the hammer, when the guy's hammering the door. As he's hammering a door, a hand comes through the werewolf hand comes through the mail slot, and he whacks it with the hammer. I laughed pretty hard at that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of funny gags in this first attack sequence. Where I mean, one of the things that Cooper has the guys do, and this was kind of clever, is put on a bunch of pots of water, just like have them on the burner, either for tea or for some other purpose, and it turns out that they can use them to throw scalding hot water on werewolves.
Yeah,
which comes into play, and it's kind of cool to see because they're trying to get this werewolf back outside, because trying to come in, and through like the view hole in the door, the one guy just chucks a pot of boiling water in its face. It's like, oh, that's fucking savage.
When did they figure out the cameras?
I think Megan found it, and I think the first time it comes into play is when we get upstairs, and that was a cool idea, and it gives the movie an interesting look during those scenes too, because the flash bulbs going off and stuff.
Yeah.
During the scene we get an arm chopped off at the forearm with the aforementioned broadsword. A couple of stun grenades get thrown. There's a shot where like Spoonie and I think it's Joe, the football guy, this movie came out in 2002, and it shows here where we have two guys standing back to back with machine guns, basically doing a Contra impression. And it's just a shot that's thrown in there just because, the director was like, well, that would look cool.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't have much impact. It's just like, well, that would look cool.
So we're building up to our final plan, which is to get the other car out of the barn. Like she hints that there's another car over there. Or how do they find out there's another car out there?
I'm not sure how they found out about it, but it's parked in like a shed that's out back.
Yeah.
Before that, though, I wanted to mention the first glamour shot we get of the werewolves happens upstairs. Mm-hmm. So during the attack, one of the werewolves comes in through the window, and the sergeant is actually in a bedroom that's upstairs. So he's unconscious, and it comes in through the window into his room. I really, really like the grand reveal of the werewolf, because it's almost like out of a fairy tale or something, where we get this shot of this unnaturally tall and lanky creature coming in through the windowsill. It's like bracing itself on the ceiling and the floor at the same time, and you have a gentleman like laying in bed unconscious. It's like straight out of, like I said, like a fairy tale or something. And it's the first shot we get like from head to toe of what these things look like. And to describe it, they have like dark brown skin, like leathery skin. They're actually pretty lanky, like they're thin.
Yeah, really lanky.
Probably like 7-8 feet tall. Claws, obviously, but the only thing that's like covered in hair and distinctly wolf-like is their head, which is kind of unnaturally large, and it almost looks like something derived from something you'd see in like the history of early man. Like imagine like a caveman wearing like a bison's head or something. Like it looks like something that if you saw it at a distance wouldn't look out of place, I guess. Where it's like, that looks like a man in a suit, and it's like, it kind of is, but it's like, but just work with us here. Yeah, the plan at this point is that we survived the initial attack from the werewolves, but now ammo becomes an issue. Realistically, it should have been an issue like 2 hours ago, but whatever.
But usually, I mean, there's usually just like rifle rounds just hanging about, but they're using semi-automatic weapons. So I mean, in video games, semi-automatic weapons ammo run out really quick. But if they had the rifles, they'd be fine. They just have to keep getting rounds of 8 every once in a while. They just reload.
I mean, it would have been kind of. I'm kind of surprised actually that there wasn't like a hunting rifle in the house or something, or like a double-barreled shotgun or some antiquated rifle of some sort.
I was actually expecting werewolf lore to be, well, because he mentions the ghost story. Remember, Cooper? He's talking to the guys. He's like, "I hear about this place." So it would make sense that out here at this location, that someone up there might believe in like werewolf folklore and have a few rounds of silver bullets up there or something.
Well, I mean, this house in particular wouldn't, but
we know that it's not. But I'm saying, as far as the story goes, it would you would think that that's what they would find. But yeah.
But yeah, we forgot to mention that one of the stories Cooper tells them when they first touch down the woods, basically, is that like he basically heard that some people got murdered in these exact woods. So it's implied that the couple that we saw at the very beginning of the movie are part of those murders. Yeah. So the plan at this point is to get transportation, and apparently there's a vehicle out in a shed that's just across from the farmhouse. The idea is we're going to send Joe and Spoonie outside to act as decoys, and then Joe is going to grab the vehicle while Spoonie distracts the werewolves. So Spoonie goes out, he pops a flare and calls everybody cunts and wankers or whatever the fuck British people do, and Joe manages to get in the vehicle. When Spoonie heads back into the farmhouse, he does so via like a rope ladder that they have rigged up to the top floor where the Sarge was situated. And this is where he says that classic line, "I love it when a posh girl talks dirty."
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Because Megan's there to help him back in. I forget what she says to prompt that, but I just love that line. It's a good one.
I do appreciate, like, she's an attractive woman. Like, she's very pretty. At no point do these military guys make any kind of sexist remark or sexually aggressive remark. Like, it's nice because that could have come into play later if they had. But yeah, good on the writers.
I'm happy that wasn't an element in the script.
It's a breath of fresh air, isn't it?
I know. Like 28 Days Later was not shy about getting into that stuff.
We were gonna get sexually aggressive in a couple of different ways that are it was getting real rapey.
Yeah, real quick too.
Real quick. It's not funny.
It's not funny.
Excuse
me. So we get a really cool moment This is actually one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. Is the shed. So Joe is starting up this vehicle, and
Yes,
as he's getting
yes.
in there, there's a werewolf like cradling. Oh, we forgot to mention at the conclusion of the first siege, we lose a man.
Yeah.
I think his name's Terry. And,
He's inconsequential.
yeah, I mean, we forgot about him, so clearly he
good
wasn't that
kid.
important. Yeah, at the conclusion of that first attack, though, he like calls out into the darkness like, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of fucking pussies," and then he just gets yanked out the window very suddenly.
We're
very
not
quickly.
gonna fight anymore.
We're gonna close this.
Yeah. Yeah. Listeners, you
Yeah,
can figure
Deep,
that
Deep
out.
Blue Sea. Check it out. So what Joe discovers in this shed, though, is he turns on the headlights of this vehicle, and there's a werewolf like sitting in front of the Jeep, and it has Terry like cradled in its arms, almost like a child, and he's still alive, but he's quite torn the fuck up.
He's lost a lot of blood.
Yeah, and so this werewolf just kind of like casually bends
Goes back
over
to
and
eating it.
bites his head off.
Yeah.
And then tosses his head into the windshield.
Real quick, have you seen Jeepers Creepers?
I have.
Damn it. All right, keep going. I was real excited.
Yeah,
for that.
he tosses. Joe has his friend's head tossed at him, and he hits reverse. It's like he's like, I'm done with this. And then he drives the Jeep like pretty much into the front door of the farmhouse, like
Yeah.
very recklessly. And I think he backs it up actually.
He backs it up, and this is where we get now the fourth Jurassic Park, because one of them was where they're trying to shut the door and the two hands, and you can actually see the door. The front door has like the wooden hole where you can just like open up a little latch to look outside.
Yeah.
And that I was like, okay, that's Jurassic Park.
Door locks. Boot
Ellen,
up the
put
door
on the
locks.
door locks.
But yeah, he gives a "You're behind me, aren't you?" And
Yeah.
I actually really like this effect where you can
The-
barely hear this thing wheezing and the
That was
condensation, the steam coming from its snout. You don't see it; you just see the steam coming at it.
See, I think the director was trying to go for a laugh here, but it would have been way more effective if he would have just been sitting there and then you see the breath coming from behind him. That would have been pretty cool.
Oh, I'm picturing a shot where you see the back of his head and then the windshield fogs up, and just like in the windshield, just slightest reflection you can see, like the head.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Ooh, you need to see some
Anyway,
Hereditary.
he whips out a knife actually, and he turns around to face this thing.
Going out like a baller. I like that. Like going out like Billy and Charles S. Dutton in Alien 3.
Fuck yes.
Fuck yeah. That's a good way. I mean, honestly, if you know you're fucked in a situation like this and you're going against a fucking monster, I say like that's the best way to not think about dying is to just fucking go for it. Just yeah, it's a pretty gangster way to go.
It was a good death, and then actually another Jurassic Park reference. The way I wrote it was Joe in the cab. You're behind me, aren't you? Joe gets Nedried.
Yeah, that's the
'Cause
Nedry.
we only get an exterior. We don't actually see what happens to him. But yeah, we get to see the vehicle like shaking because of the struggle happening in there. So it's very reminiscent when the Dilophosaurus jumps on Wayne Knight.
See, I've seen Jurassic Park a lot, and I've been jonesing to rewatch it. It's like my Star Wars. It's like the one I'll just keep watching year after year. I think I'm pulling the trigger tonight because it keeps coming up. The last couple weeks it's been coming up. But yeah,
always
this
worth
was
your time.
this was the Dennis Nedry. This was my Jurassic Park little notch that I had checked. So now, where do we go from here now? Because it's starting to fall apart now. It's starting
Well, we get the all is lost moment.
Yeah.
We get the downbeat moment in the story because now we're starting to lose guys in rapid succession, and we get a piano interlude delivered by Megan because there's just a piano in the house. Maybe this is another hint that she has some connection to this house because she knows how to play this piano.
Mm-hmm.
I think the track she plays, I think it's Claire de Lune. It's a piece of classical music. Most recently they used it for the the Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer, that first trailer.
I've only seen the one trailer. I don't remember. So I'm better than you because I've seen more foreign and classic films, but you're better than me musically. I definitely will admit that. Because you can pull this stuff out of your ass. Like, what are you talking about? You have this great knowledge of all of these like composers and like, yeah, they're really great. And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking about.
Well, I only know some things. Like when it comes to like rock or punk rock and stuff like that, I don't know anything.
No, as I'm saying, you're more well read when it comes to composers.
But you still are better than me because you've seen more French.
I'm
films.
Still better than you. I've seen more French films.
There you go. So we get back to Cooper yelling at Captain Ryan because we can't go 5 minutes without that happening, apparently.
Yeah.
And we actually get kind of a neat exchange here where Captain Ryan is basically laying it out to them that, you know, I know you guys feel like you're set up, but like I'm not the bad guy here. But the line he uses is that, like, I'm sorry, Cooper, that you got passed up for joining the SAS. And for some reason, he's trying to make it like, this is your problem, Cooper.
Yeah.
But what he says to him is, like, if you had passed, you'd be on my team. And guess what? If you'd been on my team, you'd be dead.
And he's like, well, I'm fucking glad I wasn't on your fucking team, you fucking wanker. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty intense conversation. And like I said, the acting in this movie is, for the most part, pretty solid.
Yeah, he, it's just so weird seeing him play a villain. Davos, the captain, it's just he's such a swell guy on Game of Thrones. It's just weird seeing him being a dick.
But yeah, this is where he like starts to reveal a few details about what was going on out in the woods.
Yeah.
Where he makes mention of a special unit, like a special weapons unit that he says are responsible for doing like special animal training and stuff. Like in World War II, there's that famous example of training dolphins to place mines in the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. So it's implied that the military is trying to exploit the werewolves in some way.
We're always trying to exploit whatever alien or mystical, supernatural entity we find. If we get it, we're going to exploit it.
Of course.
Oh,
like a certain public access television show in Milwaukee.
There it is. We are going to do it. We are going to get
every episode.
We're going to get something. It's a huge part of American culture, I think, especially film.
It absolutely is. I think so. So at this point, we start to notice that, you know, Sarge is hanging around a lot more, and he seems okay.
Yeah.
And so it starts to become pieced together that maybe this werewolf thing is actual werewolfism, where it can be passed on through, you know, bites or cuts or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Captain Ryan's fine, Sarge is fine. Both of them should probably be dead at this point, or at least dying. And just in time for our cast to realize this, Captain Ryan starts to transform.
Mm-hmm. This was actually kind of a creepy scene. Like, if it had taken a little bit more time for him to develop, it starts off pretty good though. Like with the hand on the table, and he kind of comes up and you can see his teeth and eyes, and then he goes back down again. Like it's pretty good. I'll give it to him. It's
pretty good, except for there's a very long tradition of werewolf movies. The transformation sequence is it's a thing that you'd have to do. And they skip it in this movie. I think that was smart that they didn't show it. Well, like I said at the top of this recording, Dead Alive, in terms of like gore and mayhem, it's an almost insurmountable task to top that. Yeah. American Werewolf in London. That's on screen werewolf transformation. That's the gold standard. You're always going to be compared to that, and in all likelihood, you're not going to top it.
That movie's pretty good. I'll give American Werewolf in London. It's pretty good, but the transformation scene is awesome. Like it's the whole reason to watch that movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's magnificent. It's why my dad knows who Rick Baker is.
So the director of this movie knows that, okay, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Like, we're not going to do better than American Werewolf in London. It's just not going to happen. So don't show it.
Yeah, and also this is an action horror movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I would agree.
So it's not as necessary. But yeah, they basically skip the transformation sequence. Really all we get is his eyes change color. He gets some fancy new fingernails, and then he just gets up from under the table and he's full on werewolf.
Yeah.
He attacks everyone in the room. I loved Sarge's reaction because he just looks up and he says, "That's a dog."
Yeah, he said it's a dog. It actually took me out of the movie because I was watching I was kind of doing the subtitles here, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna call him something. He's like, "That's a dog." I'm like, wait, what?
That's a dog. And then he actually picks up like a stick and just fetch.
That was funny. So there was another gag that was funny we missed in the barn that cracked me up when he's cradling the man. He takes his head and chops it off, and then throws it at the car that's in the barn. I thought that was pretty funny. That was pretty good. And honestly, the camera was pretty funny to me. Every time that the camera came up, I was getting a good laugh out of that.
Yeah, it needs to be said that like about halfway through this movie, most of the action scenes involving the werewolves, there's somebody, usually Megan, using a antique camera to use the flash basically to fend off the werewolves.
Yeah.
It comes into play at the very end of the movie, but like I said, it gives it an interesting look, and it does seem to make a difference in fighting the werewolves because it's understood that these things are basically unkillable.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. We kind of glossed over that. Like, these things are not dying. No damage has been done. We have not seen one be killed.
Yeah, we've not seen one be killed. We don't have an exact number in regards to how many there are, but it's pretty obvious whatever we're doing to them isn't more than like a nuisance.
Yeah.
In fact, one of them had an arm cut off, and at the end of the film, it's pretty obvious they all have all their arms.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's some supernatural shenanigans going on here. But yeah, at this point, yeah, that's a dog. They managed to fend off Ryan, but it's very important to note that they run him through with the broadsword, and he escapes. But he never takes the sword out. It's still just in the middle of his torso. So if you want some indication of like how much damage a sword to the torso does to a werewolf, there's your answer. It doesn't really bother them that much.
Yeah.
So at this point, we get a heartfelt moment between Cooper and I think Spoonie, because they're talking about Sarge and how he's fine, like he's miraculously healed at this point. And at this point in the movie is where I started to like, the soundtrack was kind of bugging me earlier in the movie, like it sounded cheap to me, but at this point like there's a couple of key melodies that pop up that I start to like it. Like I was like, this is starting to work for me. And the Sarge and Cooper start talking about like, they start making plans, like, so there's a good chance they'll turn into one of these things.
Yeah. And
that's going to be bad for you and Spoonie and Megan and stuff. What are we going to do about that? And unfortunately, I couldn't get the quote down because it was too long and too fast. But they're talking about the nature of a werewolf transformation. And is it like taking a piss or taking a shit?
Yeah.
Because the Sarge is like, what if it's like taking a piss and like there's nothing you can do once it's got to happen, it's gonna happen. And the Cooper counters that with like, but what if it's like taking a shit? Like you can hold on to that for a while.
Yeah.
Like, you can hold that back for a while.
Yeah.
So it's this like intense, important conversation that they're trying to like rationalize how best to go about it.
This final scene. So Cooper they've kind of split up at this point. The plan is for the sergeant, he's going to basically sacrifice himself. Aliens.
He wants to.
Yeah.
But the alternative that Megan throws out there is, she doesn't tell them to do it, but she does say like, if these werewolves are anything like wolves, she describes how their den would be. Like, she's basically describing the shed outside.
Yeah.
And Cooper pieces it together, and he's like, "Oh, you're trying to tell me that the werewolves live in the shed." So the plan becomes to blow the shed.
Yeah.
And we get this big dramatic moment where they blow the shed, and then it very quickly becomes apparent that was completely pointless.
Yeah.
Which is when we get our grand reveal of Megan as... well, do you want to get into it?
Yeah, American Werewolf in Paris came out before this, because that was definitely the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she has been a part of that family, and she says, like, you were my chance to, like, get out of here. But I think what she was getting was, like, you were going to kill the rest of this family and take me out of here. And she's like, and you failed at doing that, you're fucked. So, basically, I've been lying to you this whole time. Pretty much set you up, and now we're going to fucking eat you. Ombre. You look delicious.
Yeah, a lot of information changes hands at this point.
It's a lot.
In like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
She reveals that she's part of the werewolf family.
Yep.
This is their house. She led them there on purpose. Coop deduces that the family photos in the house were taken by her. Mm-hmm. Which is why she's not in any of the photos. And then the final reveal is that she unlocked the back door. And so we get this neat shot of like the other werewolves.
This was a cool part, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Where like the whole family of werewolves is standing behind her, and the lighting tunes up in time with her, like revealing that she's able to transform into one too. And then very unceremoniously, Sarge like caps her in the forehead before she even fully transforms. It's pretty great.
Yeah. This is actually this final bit reminded me of Dead Alive a little bit in the house.
Yeah.
So they split up. Sarge is down in the kitchen, and then Cooper ends up in the bathroom.
Yeah, Cooper and Spoonie go upstairs. No, Spoonie's in the kitchen.
Spoonie's in the kitchen.
Sarge and Cooper go upstairs.
Cooper ends up in the bathroom by himself, and he hilariously toe taps a sink a few times before he kicks it all the way. I was like, what's he doing with that fucking sink? He's just like, and kicked it over. He wasn't touching it, and he's supposed to be giving like it looks like he's giving a lot of effort, but he's not touching the sink at all. I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, I mean, I'm sure the prop was very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we only have one of these, Kevin.
So be careful.
Kevin. Prop department worked really hard on this.
Yeah, be careful.
Don't fuck it up.
But yeah, the boxing scene. This was good.
It was. I enjoyed it.
He's literally putting up his dukes, hitting the ones and twos, jab, 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 and he ends up. He gets thrown around. He's throwing dishes. He's throwing pots and pans. He's literally throwing everything he can at this at the werewolf. And how does he die?
So Spoonie, yeah. While Coop and the Sarge are upstairs. By the way, they're doing some savage work on those walls. It's kind of cool, actually. It reminded me, another Jurassic Park reference. Fuck. When the raptors are attacking them, they have to dig underneath the door.
That's Jurassic Park. That's the Lost World.
Yeah, that's the Lost World.
I'll count it.
All out.
I'll allow it.
So Cooper and Sarge are trapped, but they're maneuvering through the second floor of the house by like literally cutting through the walls with improvised tools. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool to watch. Meanwhile, Spoonie's in the kitchen boxing a werewolf, and we get a cute little moment where he kicks the werewolf, and we get to see one of its teeth fly into the wall.
That was pretty cool.
It was cute. Yeah. I liked it. But yeah, I mean, it's a losing battle.
Yeah.
We got a really savage moment there where he gets a kitchen knife and he goes to town on this
He's
werewolf.
shanking the fuck out of him. Like, he's going to town.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But eventually, he gets overwhelmed. He gets the shit kicked out of him, and I think two werewolves just devour him. Like, they turn him into chunky salsa.
Yeah, they fuck him up. Something terrible.
They mouth fuck him to death.
Yeah.
And then upstairs, though, our two guys reunite, so they manage to, like, break through the same wall. I think Cooper comes into the closet, or, like, the crawl space that the Sarge is
He's in the bathroom. Sarge is in the bathroom because he's got that can of spray and he's got the lighter. He's like burning him. He's like, I'm running out.
I really like the energy of this final escape sequence. Like it
seems
feels
frantic.
manic and like really intense. Actually,
it is. I agree.
And I like watching the werewolves like just tear the fuck through doors and stuff. Because it's not like zombies where it's gonna take a long time. It's like, no, we gotta hurry. It's like these things are big and strong.
Yeah.
And this is also when we get some like the better glamour shots of the werewolf costumes.
Yeah,
there's like one in particular where it's like there's fog in the hallway and they're like groping down the hallway. It's a tracking shot where like the camera's sliding back on a dolly. It just looks really cool.
Yeah, that was my big problem with this is we didn't like. I get that you need to keep you don't want to show too much. But they did a pretty good job with these costumes. Like, you could show it a bit more and a little earlier, just a bit more in the shadows, and you don't have to show the full body. You can show the full body at the end, but they could have shown a bit more hands.
Yeah, they could have. And especially since when we do finally get to see them, like, and have our view, like, uninhibited, they actually look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, maybe you should take more pride in your creation or something. But, the way our two remaining heroes manage to escape is they break through yet another wall, and it's a bedroom, and Sarge comes up with this idea to get into a wardrobe. So there's two dudes like standing face to face in a wardrobe that probably has like 3 square feet of standing room, and then it's very obvious that the werewolves are outside. So it's like, what's the plan, Sarge? He underworlds them out of this wardrobe, and by underworlds them, I'm talking about Kate Beckinsale underworld.
Yeah.
He uses an MP5 which he somehow found, and he shoots a ring around their feet, and the floor drops out, and they go back. They fall into the kitchen.
I was thinking Fifth Element.
Yeah, that's another good one. In fact, that's better because I think Underworld came out like after this.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they shoot out the floor to escape and drop back down into the kitchen, and we get the cheesiest line in this movie. They discover what remains of Spoonie, and like I said, he is literally chunky salsa.
Yeah.
Like, he is just a mess. And this calls back to Sarge's story about losing his friend in Iraq, where it's like, this doesn't look human anymore. This is just a pile of goo. Coop asks Sarge, "Where's Spoonie?" And Sarge like finds a dog tag or something akin to it and says, "There is no spoon." I was like,
Yeah.
You could have kept that one. Matrix reference in case you don't know.
So yeah, now we have now this part kind of confused me. The editing was so quick when we get down to the basement, which is where their den actually is. So it looks like he's got some like Texas Chainsaw. They've got like Texas Chainsaw Massacre people hanging like meat.
They have
hanging.
like people jerky or something that they're making.
I'm like, that's pretty creepy, and you could have shown that a little bit more. Like, it just happened so fast, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? I kind of missed it a little bit. Yeah, there was a really missed opportunity to really scare the shit out of people with that one.
I don't think the intention was ever to scare, but yeah, the imagery in that basement was actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
like there's some interesting blue lighting going on in there. A lot of weird antiques and stuff. It looks like a traditional haunted house. So the way we get to the basement is Sarge starts to transform, and he decides someone has to make it out of this. So he demands that Cooper go into a trapdoor that they find just spur of the moment, into the basement of the farmhouse. And meanwhile, Sarge starts to rig up. He blows out the pilot light of the stove, or the oven rather, and simple math, gas explosion.
Yeah.
So he's like mid transformation. We get like some of the best glamour shots of these werewolves like surrounding him. And meanwhile, though, in the basement, Cooper and the dog, because dogs gotta make it, they're trying to escape through the basement. But then, oh my God, there's another werewolf in there. And very quickly, because it still has a sword lodged in its chest, we figure out that that's Captain Ryan.
Yeah.
So we have our boss fight in the basement.
Yeah, he's talking shit, and he's like, "Oh, you ain't got no balls. We'll kick you in the balls. You ain't got any balls." 'Cause he's just like shit talking, trying to get a rise out of him. They slap box a little bit, go at it, and Cooper gets knocked down, and he sees the dog jumps on his back, which not gonna happen. My dog would not do that. She would be running or just barking. She's not gonna jump on this thing's back. But he gets knocked down. The dog's on the back, and he finds this little silver letter opener that we found at the beginning of the movie, and he has like that folklore, and he just comes up and just stabs him just right in the chest. And you can see his skin start to change, like melt a little bit, and then he just shoots him in the head, and then we get the Mac behind the head, blood splatter, and then they blow up, and then Sergeant blows up. He goes to light a match, and he goes to strike the lighter, and then the lichen just knocks it out of his hand, as if like he was expecting that. So he lights the pilot light, and poof, goes up.
And then we get a fun miniature gas explosion. They couldn't afford to blow up a farmhouse. They used a miniature. It's kind of cute looking, very obviously a miniature, but I appreciate it. By the way, am I wrong? But did that final boss fight in the basement remind you of Super Shredder in Ninja Turtles 2? Docks?
I didn't get to finish Terminator Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. I got to Vanilla Ice, and I'm like, okay, it's time for garbage pizza. It's time.
How the fuck, man?
Yeah, I got to the Vanilla Ice, and I'm like, you know what? Good.
Well, so you missed Kevin Nash? God damn.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in that.
Oh, Kevin Nash was a wrestler who's notorious for ruining wrestling. You've seen him before. He played the Russian in Tom Jane Punisher.
I thought the Jackal ruined wrestling.
A lot of things have ruined wrestling. By the way, teeth trauma. Holy shit.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about it. There's teeth trauma. There's just teeth trauma.
So, there's certain types of violence and trauma in film or whatever that a lot of people can't handle. One of those is teeth. If you have problems with teeth trauma in films, maybe turn off this movie before the final scenes.
28 Days Later, and I think Blade Runner has it as well. I can't even remember now, but I watched 2 movies back to back that had eye trauma.
Eye trauma is a big one. I know ear is really bad too.
The eyes do it for me.
Eyes are really common. Teeth is rare, but
one of the most intense episodes of Game of Thrones ended with one of the most intense ways to die. Like it is
eye trauma.
It's one of the greatest. It was one of the most infuriating episodes of Game of Thrones history, but it was also just wow. Just you blew my mind.
Did someone get Rutger Hauer?
Yeah.
Okay. Enough said.
That's what happened.
Movie ends with Cooper having survived, and then we get a photo montage over the credits. It's fucking cute. Actually,
it's funny.
The image we get is a black and white photo of Cooper looking just like, ugh. And we pull back really quickly. It turns out the photo is in like a tabloid, like the Daily Sun or something, and it says like, "My boys got killed by werewolves," and then just below that it says England 5, Germany 1.
England 5, Germany 1.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cute.
I think
that was the result of the soccer game that Joe was bitching about.
I'm pretty sure that that's a song. What was I gonna say? I think maybe.
I was just gonna say the other photos that play over the credits are stills. It's implied that it's stills that Megan had taken when she was using the flashbulb to scare off the werewolves. So it's an interesting, like, candid look at the action, and the framing of it just has an interesting look because it's black and white photos with a flashbulb. So it gives you a look at, like, the werewolf costumes completely dressed down, like without any clever lighting or editing to hide them behind, and they look good.
Yeah, I think that this movie was the director saying, like, I can do a serious movie, I can do the dialogue stuff, I can do the gore, I can do the makeup effects, I can do comedy. What do you want me to do? I can do it. Do a little bit of everything in this. How about that?
Well, it's only his second movie, and there is something to be said for I think young and inexperienced often leads to people trying to stretch themselves.
Yeah.
Like, if you get that combination, a lot of times, if you give someone an opportunity, you'll get a unique product. In a lot of ways, this movie intentionally pays homage to that which came before, but it has its own flavor that's a little different from anything else that's out there.
It does have its own flavor. I can appreciate it more now talking about it, but as far as rewatchability, absolutely not.
I don't see myself going back to this movie anytime soon.
It's worth watching once, I'll say. Give it a whirl.
There's just for the concept. I mean,
yeah.
There's never been a soldiers versus werewolf movies that I know of, unless you count, like, the Underworld movies. But
no, yeah, there's some very, very good dark comedy moments in here. Maybe understated, really. I think that's worth watching just for those. But yeah, we pretty much end with Cooper and the dog making it out alive. So
yeah, and I guess there was a sequel at some point, not directed by the same person. There was plans for a TV series that fell through. So it's a movie that has a bit of a legacy, not much of one, but it is kind of interesting looking at this director's filmography and seeing that, like, he's still working. Like,
yeah,
he's kicking around. He's doing well.
He does good stuff too.
That new Hellboy that's a big deal.
Yeah, because it's a not Guillermo Hellboy, which I really want to. I hope nothing happens to him before At the Mountains of Madness happens.
Yeah. I know he's been producing a lot of stuff, but I still don't know what his next directing gig is.
It's like Daniel Day-Lewis. Like, what's he gonna do next? Like,
honestly,
what is it?
That's what it feels like. Is like that's always the case with Daniel Day-Lewis's career, where it's like he goes away for 5, 6, 7 years, and then he comes back, and it's like, I don't care what it is, but I need to see it.
Yeah, that's how he got me in the theater to see Lincoln.
Dang.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you mention it, I went too.
Yeah.
It's what you do.
It's what you do. Daniel Day-Lewis is putting a new movie out. It's what you do. But yeah, that's about all I had to say about him.
Yeah, so that was 2002's Dog Soldiers. Thank you for joining us as we caught up on cinema.
Yep.
Until next time.